Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. The subject of the discourse today is Buddha's discourse on universal love. It is entitled Karaniya Metta Sutta. Now, we have been discussing in this series on this topic, but there was a break, so last week we mentioned that we will recall once again the entire series. So today we continue with the series. Last week we mentioned about the historical background of this particular discourse on universal love. How, just briefly speaking, how some 500 monks who were highly evolved and very serious meditators, how they went to the Buddha, they worshipped him and they sought his blessings, but did not bother to ask for any spiritual guidance. That is because they were too concerned with themselves, self-concerned, and therefore did not bother about any guidance and so on. So they went to the foothills of the Himalaya, found a very wonderful retreat spot where the villagers, you see, nearby villages, they built little huts for them and provided them with all that is required to spend the 3 months of rains retreat, vasa, practicing meditation intensively so that they may reach the goal of their spiritual pursuit, nibbana, enlightenment. So with all these things provided to them, they started in right earnest. And now they were, you see, each monk, each 500, each one occupied a tree in that very big grove of teak tree, all very tall, about, you see, ancient tall trees, very beautiful, and so they occupied each one. Now, each of the tree was actually a home of a celestial being. So they made these trees into the base for their own, you see, abidings, for their own abode. Now, these beings, they had psychic powers of all kinds. So they said, well, these are meditators and we will not disturb them. They are our guests. So they went away to some other spot, just waiting for these monks to go, because they were dispossessed of their homes. So they saw after a time that the monks were not budging at all. So they thought of a plan of getting rid of them, and they sort of materialized themselves in all kinds of ways and disturbed their meditative life so much that they were forced to quit the place, go to the Buddha once again and seek for his blessings and his guidance. The Buddha said, no monks, no question of getting any other place. You have to return to the same place, and you have not been thinking about others' well-being, but you have been thinking only about your own so-called spiritual development and all that sort of thing. We live in a world of interdependence, and we cannot separate ourselves as a separate entity. So there, I will give you this discourse, this There is an action plan, spiritual action plan, and you learn it by heart. In those days, education was imparted that way, and then you go and you'll be successful, and that is what happened. So they went there, and these very hostile celestial beings were so much influenced by the thought vibrations emanating from their hearts all through the way down, from the Buddha, from Jetavana right up to that Himalayan region. About 7 days walk through villages and you see open country and jungles and so on. They passed through, but they kept on doing from morning till night. Whatever they did, or whatever they said, or whatever they thought in this journey, everything in keeping with the spirit of this Metta Sutta. The result was absolutely phenomenal. Now, their minds were completely cleared of any thought of only self-interest. They were purified and they developed very powerful spiritual consciousness, and their thought vibrations, or rather the metta thought vibrations or forces aimed at these celestial beings and others in the locality, they were all completely overwhelmed by that, and they became, you see, the change from a hostile being into a very friendly being indeed. And that was this brief recalling of the last discourse, how metta as a thought force, as a spiritual thought force, and is a spiritual vibration, powerfully influencing oneself and others. You see. So that was the discourse last time. Now today I will discuss about the sutta itself. Now Karaniya Metta Sutta is divided into, as we have already mentioned, this is an action plan of the pursuit of spiritual life based on universal love, not self-love, not love in the form of just one's own near and dear one, or one's caste and one's country and all that sort of thing. No. Universal love. Love radiated towards all beings in a very systematic and methodical manner, which affects oneself as well as others. So, from what I have said now already, you will know that the definition of metta is promoting the well-being and happiness of oneself as well as others equally, and with a spirit of complete unselfishness love. Unselfish love, that is the underlying spirit. So, these monks, when they returned, they found these very celestial beings. You see, they materialized themselves in the human form and welcomed them with such love and devotion. They were overwhelmed. They went and to their own huts again, and they started their you see, all their spiritual life. So these celestial devas not only welcomed them, but made sure that they are not disturbed at all. So within the 3 months' time, they were able to completely bring about a transformation of the consciousness. And they became arhats, enlightened beings, enlightened disciples of Bhagavan Buddha, Lord Buddha. So, this was a here and now experience, well proven historically and without any doubt whatsoever. So if this can be done by some, this can be done by all. This has to be kept in view, and one must have that self-confidence based upon the philosophy of self-reliance. That means going beyond any kind of mental dependence on any external forces. Call it divine will, God creator, whatever it is, all these theories of religion, you see, or theological doctrines or dogmas, they have really no connection whatsoever with spiritual development. They have a historical background of their own, and we don't need to go and bother about all that. But as a spiritual pursuit, an action plan, this sutta is absolutely par excellence. The most excellent way and most lofty way of transporting one's consciousness from the human level to that of samadhic level, the level of the great radiant Brahma divinities, and then further on to the transcendental level of supramundane insight states, leading to enlightenment. So now the action plan consists of 3 distinct steps. So we have here in the Metta Sutta these 3 distinct, very distinct, interrelated steps of spiritual pursuit. One is metta as a sila, as a virtuous conduct. The second, metta as a meditative practice leading to the attainment of samadhi or ecstatic absorption, suprasensory experience of a different dimension of existence altogether. Your consciousness is totally changed, and it is akin to the consciousness of the Brahma gods. So that lofty state, sublime state, you achieve through your meditation, which is known as samatha, metta samatha bhavana. A meditation in the, Buddhist meditation consists of these 2 elements. One is samatha, meaning the type of meditation that calms down the mind. Samatha, upasamati. That means that calms down, tranquilizes the mind. The other is vipassana bhavana. That is development of the insight, the supramundane insight knowledges. Step by step it starts with mundane and then gets transformed into supramundane. So, the vipassana and vipassana, these are the 2 different modes of meditations in the teachings of the Buddha. So, by practicing this sutta practice plan, first of all, sutta, the metta is a sila, virtuous conduct, which acts as a foundation for the achievement of transformation of consciousness. First of all, sublimation of consciousness. You lift the consciousness to the level of the divine, of the very sublime divinities of Brahmaloka. and sublimate everything. Your consciousness becomes very different. It is no longer subject to the self-consciousness of you don't think in terms of I, we, me, you. But your consciousness is transformed. It becomes universal. But then it is also within the sphere of samsaric or worldly existence. In that you get it, you achieve that result through your self-effort and through your noble karma, spiritual karma. And once the potency of the karma is exhausted, you also fall back into other planes of existence. So they come within the sphere of karma and rebirth. So that Buddhism does not limit itself only to the achievement of divine stages. No. You go even beyond the divine into the transcendental realm of Nibbana, of enlightenment, freedom from karma and rebirth, freedom from recurring existence, to be born again and again, to die again and again, or be born only to die, and to be reborn again only to die. These cycles of birth and death and rebirth and all that, that is called samsara. And once you transport your consciousness to the level of the transcendental, the supramundane, which goes beyond the divinity, the divine states. Now once you transport your consciousness to that level, your consciousness is transformed, which simply means not a mere chemical change, but a complete, total, total transformation, total change. The example last time we gave that was that of milk. Now milk is very good, you can keep it for a couple of days or a few days in a fridge and you can have it. But after that it will break up, it will get soiled. So then you turn it into yogurt or curd and you can keep it for a longer period, but not for more than another 10, 15, 20 days. It will become sour. So you convert it into butter and you can keep it for another couple of months or more, but then again it will become smelly and all that sort of thing. So you have now to change it totally into ghee, very clear, clean ghee which can remain far longer. So this is the process of transformation. Once it is transformed from milk to what you call curd or yogurt, it cannot revert, it cannot go back to the old stage. And once the curd also is turned into butter, it cannot revert, it cannot go back to the old state. And once it is transformed into ghee, no question of going back to the state of the milk at all. However you manipulate, it cannot happen. So the consciousness is subject to similar transformation or changes, which means transmutation of the whole element. There is an elemental change. Now once that happens, you are no longer subject to be born in the worldly existence, worldly planes of existence. You are liberated, freed. And the means by which you bring about this liberation or what is called enlightenment, the means by which you do that constitute the action plan of the Metta Sutta. Namely, action plan in 3 steps: Metta Sila, Metta Samadhi, Metta Panya. Wisdom. So now, you see, today we'll discuss a little about this Metta Sila. the first step, which is really the foundational step. Here the word sila or virtue or virtuous conduct really means threefold actions, or actions, or rather volitional action, intentional actions through three doors of action. Three doors of actions means action in, mental action or thought, thinking, verbal action as speech or word, and bodily action in the form of all kinds of bodily activities. These are the three doors of action. Now, metta as a sila ultimately boils down to these three types of actions. Three types of action. So that is deed, word and thought. Whatever you do, whatever you speak, whatever you think, every one of these forms of actions, intentional actions, will have to be turned into metta surcharged actions. Now, to do that, what is it that's involved in this process? Now, turning every action through the three doors into metta action, it involves two things. Number one, it involves a very systematic process of restraint, control and mastery. That means self-restraint, capable of controlling or restraining your senses, restraining all your actions, restraining your mind. Sangvara or Sanyama. Kayena sangvaro sadhu, sadhu vachaya sangvaro, manasa sangvaro sadhu, sadhu sabbatta sangvaro. Good it is to bring about restraint at the bodily level, at the verbal level, and at the mental level. Sadhu sarvatta, and it is indeed good to have self-control and self-mastery at all levels and everywhere. So, metta sila ultimately boils down to bringing about the self-mastery by having complete mastery over every action that you perform. That is, whatever you say, do or think. So to be able to restrain means what? Or to have mastery means what? It means the ability to restrain the negative forces from influencing your mind and your actions. By bringing into the picture positive forces, to bear upon whatever you say, think or do. Self-restraint is the very heart of spiritual life, no question about it. It is the basis of morality, sila. Now this has to be so done, brought about, based on metta, universal love, that it is a foolproof thing. You don't cheat yourself in the form of self-restraint. Now here is a man who goes, he closes his nose with a big piece of cloth and says, oh yes, I don't kill any creature in the world, so I am putting on this stuff. But he goes to his shop and he cheats 100 people, customers who come there. One hand he said, no, he is practicing non-violence by putting on a piece of cloth on his nose. On the other hand, he cheats and really practices mental violence because he is hurting them, harming them in so many ways. That is not non-violence. Non-violence starts with mind. Mental violence is the worst form of violence. So self-restraint here, by that what is meant, is that you bring about such self-control and self-mastery over the mind that you don't allow any mental defilement, kilesa, or any upakilesa, mental impurity, to bear upon, to influence your actions. So, this element of self-control leads to what? It leads to purification of the mind through purification of the actions or the purification of conduct. If you are purifying your conduct, now for instance, you have a desire, you have in your mind, you say, I don't want to kill, I don't want to destroy, etc. But when you are bitten by a mosquito and the fellow somehow gets into your mosquito net and keeps making noise and biting you now here, now there, then with all your big ahimsa business in the mind, you say, well, I must finish this guy. If I have to have a bit of sleep, I have to finish him. That is one approach. Here the intention to kill, to destroy life. Now the other person says, well, he has got into this mosquito net because of my own unskillful way of putting the mosquito net. Very good. Let me again go out, take the mosquito net and just shove it this way and that way, air it, and this little creature will go away. So he just airs it here and there and uses a fan or whatever, and the creature goes away. And then he again puts the mosquito net and have a nice sleep without destroying any life and following the principle of non-violence, which is metta. Metta simply means non-violence, non-hurting, inoffensiveness. These are the meanings. So now, the whole thing therefore boils down to what kind of approach you have. See, by restraint you bring about purification of your conduct and your mind. But that depends upon very much on what kind of attitude you have. Now I gave an example of how to deal with a mosquito which is biting your nose. Well, two approach. One is the intention to kill, and then follow that intention into actual action of killing. You bring out your, spray gun and nicely spray the thing on that poor creature and just kill it right then. That is one way. That is the American way. Anyway. And the justification is, he has no business to get into my mosquito net. If he does, I'll kill him. For self-defense, I have every right to kill 1 million beings. Have a big war. Destroy a whole country. What a wonderful philosophy. In the name of self-defense. Here is another person who really believes in non-violence mentally to begin with. He is a Buddhist. And he makes no, he is quite clear about it. So he says, why should I bother with that creature? Let me deal with myself. I am the one who has allowed him to get in. I am the one who has been unskillful. So, he said, okay, I'll come out of the bed, and he just takes out the mosquito net, and you see, airs it nicely, this way, that way, and so on, and lets the mosquito go out, fly out. And then he comes back again, sets himself right, and then he enjoys a good sleep. He doesn't need to intend to kill, no. Or then follow up the intention by action of killing. So here three elements are there. First, the element of a mental outlook, a mindset, an attitude of mind. Or, to use a more philosophical term, a kind of philosophy of life, dedicated to not hurting beings but promoting the well-being of all, promoting the well-being of everyone including yourself, and that is called metta. So here is a man whose attitude of life, whose mindset is completely imbued with metta. So he doesn't need to kill and all that sort of thing. And here is another who quotes his spiritual thing. He says, yes, mosquito and all these creatures have been created by God as the food for human beings. So human beings have every right to go and shoot and hunt. Hunting, therefore, is a birthright. That is what I heard all over in America. And the Bush now, his father did that. He gave a demonstration. He shot in the air one bird and said, yes, I have got the right to hunt. When there were people who made a hue and cry against such violence. These two have different attitudes altogether. If you believe in violence in any form, whether you justify it by using the word like violence, self-defense or whatever, or scientific requirement or scientific experiment and research or whatever, this belief in destruction of life itself makes all the difference between, you see, from a belief which is no. I love myself to live. I want to live a happy life. So all forms of life, they have the right to live. So why should I violate somebody else's life? Why should I deprive somebody else's life in order to live myself? By doing that, I will create a situation by acting a karma which will lead me to experience the same kind of result. That is, I have deprived lives, I have deprived a being from living, his right to live. So, I also die early life. Say, when I am hardly 10, I am finished. I die, or I die in the mother's womb. Or I die at the age of 30, leaving a small little baby and a wife behind. Why these early, deaths and all that? This is it. This is the reason. Karma has a potency, and the potency means the power to produce a result. So this individual is not a very sentimental guy. He doesn't say, oh, sublime metta, universal love. No. It is based upon the knowledge of a larger truth, namely the truth, the law of moral causation, karma and rebirth. If you perform a type of karma, you are attracting a situation where you will also undergo the same. So today I shall leave it at this. I will pick up the thread again. That is, metta as Shiva, what it involves. So with this I conclude. May the blessings of Bhagavan Buddha, his Dhamma and Sangha surround your lives with well-being and happiness. May you all be blessed with metta. Sukhino bhavantu.